After the year 2020, the Spoiler Room crew thought things were going to cool down. But they are just heating up. Cannon fodder.
We're in the shit now.
Listen in as this elite group of cinema special forces take on an army of Cannon Group films.
What the hell are we watching?
I don't know, but I can't take my eyes off it.
Prepare yourself for urban action. Kung Fu action. Action. There will be car chases, ninja, and of course, movie spoilers in Cannon Fodder. Happy Father's Day.
If it's over or not.
Okay,
there we are. It's tough because I can't quite hear it, but I probably talked over it at some point, so we're doing good tonight. First time we tried that opening with us, folks, but yes, here we are in the spoiler room. We are live, and it is another Cannon Fodder film. Happy Father's Day to one and all as we take a look at another Cannon film, a Cannon Group film, and Tonight, I have a wonderful crew assembled. First off, he is back with us from parts unknown. He has returned. Once again, it is the one and only BFD himself, Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Glad to be back from bad Australian accent land.
Well, that's good. I know you visited bad French land accent for a while, so... souffle, croissant, and there you go. That's the extent of my French. My apologies to our French listeners out there. We say this with love. And speaking of love, also with us tonight is my right-hand man through many a podcast in the last year. It's almost been a year.
oh my God.
Yeah. Since he started just being a regular here, he is back with us once again, Mr. Ian Simmons. Hello, Ian. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was going to try and do something cute with my voice like the heroine of our movie tonight, but I think I might break the internet and my voice box, so I won't even try.
I was going to say, I think there need to be something involved with that for you to hit that pitch of voice.
I do have a fork nearby. Anyway.
So, yes, tonight, as you saw in the title, folks, we are talking Alien from L.A., 1988 from Cannon Group Pictures, starring Kathy Ireland and directed by Albert Pyun. However,
I think it's Pyun.
Pyun. Thank you. And Glenn, do you think you may be up to give us the synopsis of Alien from L.A.? I know it's been a while. So
Sure. So, quote unquote, ugly and clumsy girl, Kathy Ireland, aka Wanda Sack Newsom, has a archaeologist father who goes missing. She decides to be brave for the first time in her life and goes after him, leading her to an underground civilization where she meets a California congressman. And they kind of wander around for a while because, of course, she's in trouble now. She's not supposed to be down there because the people down there can't know about the world up above, and she has to escape with her dad. And then she, gains confidence and then is no longer ugly because she took her glasses off. AKA what happens in every 80s movie with the ugly girl.
Hey, they did a film called, what was that? One of the Boys or whatever. So let's not forget about how the disguise of the female form was apparently very easy to do in the 80s. Yeah, I brought a good friend with me tonight, Rum Chata. This is a frap chata. It's called. It's coffee and rum chata, and Yeah, it's good. It's dangerous. It's got caffeine in it too. I don't know if I need that much. So,
A side note, but kind of related. Have you guys tried that new Coke coffee thing that they've got out there?
Not yet.
no.
I passed it in the supermarket and I was going to get some, but I totally forgot, possibly for the better. But I just want to know if anyone else had experienced it. It sounds disgusting, but I can't stay away because I love coffee.
I've heard from numerous people who say it's actually really good.
Ooh.
So, but I've been watching lots of things about weird food combinations, and the one that I'm tempted to try it out because I have two friends who tried it, and it's yellow mustard on a Swiss cake roll.
I've heard about this trend. Yes, I have. But this is cold brewed, a frappuccino. It's very good if you like coffee. Yeah. So now that we've
Next
got
episode of the Spoiler Room brought to you by Rum Chata.
Rumchata.
This is not sponsored content.
This is not sponsored content. There you go, free advertising. But yes, Alien from L.A. Yeah, brought to you by the director of Cyborg, among other action.
And the
films.
Streets of Fire sequel from a few years ago.
Ooh, Streets of Fire sequel? Really?
It was. I haven't seen it, but yeah, you can watch a trailer on YouTube, and I think they even did a remix of "Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young," which I'm still trying to recover from that one. But yeah.
So, yes, he directed this. It's an interesting story, something definitely different that you probably wouldn't exactly associate with him. Because yeah, you've got your bookworm, your introvert, your awkward, supposed to be teenager, though Kathy Ireland was in her 20s because typical 80s. She's supposed to be like a teenager, I guess, like 18 or something.
No.
Or 19. Yeah.
That doesn't check out at all. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but wow.
That's what the script says. That's what
script. Now I know you're lying.
So, Glenn, do you remember when you saw Alien from L.A. the first time?
The first time I actually saw it was on MST3K.
Of course.
As was the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time, because it's one of my favorite episodes of MST3K. I did eventually track down a VHS copy of it, and we watched it in a bad movie night that my friends and I used to have once a month. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, my first experience was Riffs Ahoy, man.
Yeah, that's the only. Excuse me. It appears to be one of the only versions available online too. The MSTK3 one. It looks like for rental.
I will add, when we watched this on VHS, we watched it with the greatest movie Albert Pune's ever done, which would be Captain America.
I have the DVD of that. I do have the DVD of that. So there you go. There's a Marvel.
The whole night, that whole night was an Albert night because we started with Cyborg, and then we went into the Nemesis movies, and then at the end of the night we were running out of stuff, so we did Captain America and Alien from L.A. So
yes, that the original Cap. If you think that Marvel always crapped gold, yeah, go back a while.
Sometimes they just crapped crap.
Yes, they just crapped multicolored red, white, and blue crap. Getting back to Alien from LA, I remember this coming out because our good friend Doc is a huge fan, or was a huge fan, of Kathy Ireland at the time, especially. And we're talking, 88. So I don't think he's mentioned that he may not have watched this whole film yet, which shame on you, Doc. Shame on you if you're listening. But I remember seeing it a few times. And then most recently, though, I've got the DVD. I've only got, for me, it's the double feature, the old Midnight Madness DVDs that they released. So that's got the Morons from Outer Space and Alien from LA. Ian, you've got a special 4-movie set that
I can't believe I now own all 4 of these movies.
Are you kidding? That's awesome.
Look, in fairness, I have not seen Morons from Outer Space, The Man from Planet X, or The Angry Red Planet, but I have seen Alien from L.A.
Angry Red Planet. You haven't seen? Oh,
No,
that's a fun one. You've got some full fun nights there with that collection. So.
I did go to see Red Planet, and I was pretty angry afterwards. So does that count?
That was a different Red Planet movie. There's been a few that doesn't count. But for you, Mr. Simmons, what was the first time you saw Alien from L.A.?
Well, I mean, I remember it like it was last week because it was last week. I had no context for it. I barely remembered that Kathy Ireland was a thing. And thanks to what you shared with me on social media today, I found out that she's had quite the career after, modeling and acting. I mean, she's like become someone of some import, which is great. I know she's been in a couple other films, but I feel like this is the first one that I can remember actually watching her act in. And it's really unfortunate because I know that is not her voice. And it is a very deliberate and odd decision to give her that voice from start to finish. Because honestly, you said your friend had never watched the full movie. I can understand that because I wanted to turn this thing off after 15 minutes, as I mentioned to you in private. But then by the end of the film, I was completely hooked. It is nuts. It is, very ambitious. It reminds me, it's like Wizard of Oz meets Demolition Man, with the whole like underground society thing, and I loved it. And I don't know if you did this deliberately or if it's just some like kind of a psychic wavelength that's going through this show. But did you catch how this transitioned from last month to this month? You had to have caught it, right, Mark?
No, I haven't actually.
Well, when Wanda Sack Newsom, a name that has at least too many letters in it, makes her way to the underground city of Atlantis, which part of the imagination of this movie is most times you think Atlantis, you think things that are like underwater or something. This is just a subterranean, dirty city.
Right.
There's a corrupt government, a figurehead at the top of which is the general, who looks like Kate McKinnon with an eye patch and a bad fright wig. Her first line is, "I am the law in Atlantis."
Oh, yes. That's true. She
come
did
off
say
of
that.
"I am the law" month right into this for Cannon Fodder. It's brilliant.
I know. I do these things. See, I don't even realize I do these things. I do remember her saying, "I am the law," and I'm like, oh, what got me is because as we mentioned, Kathy Ireland, they try their hardest to make her seem like the nerdy bookworm, the typical 80s quotes in heavy quotes. And I'm just doing this because this is how she is being portrayed from the way she is written in the movie context, quote unquote, the unattractive nerdy girl in heavy quotes. And they do their best through costuming and the big glasses they give her, as well as, hairstyle and such.
Which would make her super fashionable today.
Which would. That's the thing is I looked at that going, if she was out today, she'd be like, in the know. She'd be like, making that fashion statement.
And the bikini look that she rocks towards the end would be the totally unacceptable fashion. Cover up, put some glasses on. For God's sakes.
Where'd your glasses go? Yeah. So, I mean, you have her because you have the blatant beginning opening too, where she has a boyfriend, again in quotes, some surfer dude who doesn't want to be with her because, well, she's unattractive. She gets car sick, plane sick. She doesn't want to do any adventurous, things. Makes you wonder right from the start. You're like, why'd you even go out with her in the first place, dude?
Well, I mean, that's I can kind of let's rewind this back to the absurd idea that these people are supposed to be in high school. I can kind of understand that. Like, if they had played up on that angle, maybe it's like, hey, we're going off to college next year, and she's like, but I don't want to go anywhere. I'm scared. See, I'm trying to do that voice, and it's not working. I can see that, but she is kind of obnoxious in the beginning of this movie, and that's one of the reasons I was not looking forward to spending another 60 minutes with her or whatever. But damn it, like towards the end, that character and even that voice to a certain extent started working for me.
What about you, Glenn, and that voice?
Oh man, the thing is because of how I originally saw it and the number of times I've seen it, I can't disassociate it from
The Misty?
Mike Nelson, because they harp on her voice all the time and her just a general annoyingness, where she just, Dad, they're like, oh my God, not everything is your dad. But I had been a little bit of a fan of Kathy Ireland as well back in the day, which is so I'm like, oh cool, with Kathy Ireland, I wonder if she can act. Okay, but yeah, the voice, it bugged me a bit too, because they were trying to like portray that kind of nerdy and mousy, and they just I don't know, it to me it just came across as too forced. But I think I became numb to it after a while. It didn't bother me later in the movie just because it was just there. And there is and I think I kind of got a bit into the story, because the story is still interesting, even if they didn't have, the budget to fully realize what they wanted, most likely. But it's still an interesting story. And as Ian mentioned, the whole kind of, it's Atlantis, but it's underground. It's not underwater, which makes sense. It sank, and then it's like, okay, so it sank further than we thought it did. And then, they got some dehumidifiers. They aired the place out. So.
Well, that's the thing is, according to the mythology, and you guys keep me honest here, but it doesn't sound like it wasn't like a city that was even, or a ship that was hovering over the water either. It just sounded like a ship that came to Earth, and then something happened, it crashed and just burrowed deep into the planet. So they were completely changed up in the mythology. They make references to Hades and Asgard, so like the mythology is completely screwed up, and I like that there's this great alternate take on everything we know about culture and history and mythology going on underneath the surface.
Well, and this might be one of the first movies because later on you've got like when did the original Stargate come out?
93.
Yeah, because you had the Stargate had the whole thing with like mythology, tying in with aliens, and I mean, obviously you go back and there's people who still believe the pyramids were built by aliens, but it's you see a lot more of that later on, where you have a lot of these aliens that influence different mythologies. So,
well, and then they play out the whole thing too. Ian, you're right about. It's funny, yes, on the surface, it's this kind of goofy sci-fi thing, but we're also talking a canon film. So there's usually more here intended anyway than what you're getting. And you are getting commentary about culture, counterculture, media, manipulation, because you've got the whole thing where their entire society, the leaders of the society are saying there is no surface world. You don't go to the surface. There is no when they know there is a surface world, and you've got the one general looking for a reason to blow things up. So you've got your peace and war advisors to the head of this society, who just spins in his chair all day, apparently, and talks. But you got your commentary there. You got your commentary on the news, the greed. When they're looking for her, they put out this lotto of saying, hey, you can get money if you capture her. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. They got a lot of their ambition was far bigger than their budget, but there's actually a lot of things going on in here that I like. You're right, especially when they get to Atlantis, and this film really begins to grow on you.
And it really is a miracle, because in that first 15 minutes, I was scribbling notes, like my wrist was about to burn off, because it was just like, what the hell am I watching kind of stuff. The idea, okay, her dad's this explorer who goes off to Africa and disappears. He fell down a bottomless pit, yet somehow someone knows this. They know he fell down a quote unquote bottomless pit. So they send her a letter to say, hey, come to Africa. But before that, she's dealing with these issues of a messed up kind of childhood, because her dad left, and then her mom died in a car accident, but she describes that as mom left me too, like mom left. And the way she describes it, it's like, oh, she walked out of me too. No, she died in a car crash. That's not your mom leaving you.
That was a great conversation. I had that in my notes too.
It's a short thing. If you go into all the lore behind the movie, it was her mom hated her so much she got in the car, was speeding away.
Wow.
I just can't handle that voice anymore, Wanda. I'm done.
Wow.
You know what Wanda reminds me of? You guys are huge Saved by the Bell fans. I know it, right?
I was, because at the time I was a little over a high school age, and I early college. I was 19, and they were attractive women in that show. So
you don't have to apologize. You're here with friends. Glenn, I will take your stunned silence as an admission of yes. So just to say, Tori Spelling, before she was on 90210, she was on Saved by the Bell for like a season playing Screech's kind of girlfriend. But Tori Spelling is beautiful, especially back then. They did the same. They gave her the Wanda Sack Newsom treatment, where they dressed her up as mousy, like sock hop clothing with the big glasses and that kind of a cloying voice. So yeah, this was a convention, but yeah, you could have swapped those actresses out for this role. It would be the exact same effect.
Well, I mean, Kathy Ireland does not normally talk like this. It had to be dubbed or modified in some way, ADR'd. I don't think that was her actually talking that high. If it was, because I was trying to find trivia on it. Go figure, there isn't a whole lot on this film, actually.
A movie that has a 2.9 rating on IMDb doesn't have a wealth of internet information about it.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh. Yeah, it's so surprising. But
if you just watch this movie, that's all you know about Kathy Ireland, you'd think she's an idiot.
Yeah,
but, I mean, she's worth like $500 million.
At least now she's
like a huge business mogul. So it defeats the whole dumb blonde bikini model. Nope.
Yeah. Because I was doing some research recently. I was like, what's she been up to lately? And I see she's been on the cover of Forbes and one of the most successful business women, and outsold Martha Stewart. I'm just like, oh wow, okay.
She was one of the first people where her idea was, put my name on your merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was her whole thing with Kmart, was just don't have me model socks, put my name on your socks. And they're like, oh, that'll sell more socks. And yep, it sold more socks.
I was noticing that too, Mark, when you were sending me some stuff, and I noticed in the little blurb they had about her, not only when they were talking about her brand, but just mentioning her as a person, there's a little reserved mark up in by her name, like trademark her name. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, she trademarked her name. Hopefully they don't sue me for putting her name in the description without the trademark. I might have to go back and put that in there.
Yeah, just put like every time, just pop it up right next to your head. Yeah. But no, that talking about her being smart, I would argue, and people might not agree with this, especially if they haven't seen Alien from L.A. I think one of the smartest things she did was signing on to be in this movie, because there is a whole lot going on here. And I think if you had say 20 to 100 times the budget to make it, actual Hollywood fare,
right,
this could have been a really cool, exciting take on the Wizard of Oz, because the Oz references are all over this movie. But it's just so fascinating, and you just wouldn't know it from this kind of like dumb California surfer kind of a setup to going to some really adventurous, cool places by the end. The sets, they didn't look like they were very expensive, but they looked like they were very varied and detailed. So it didn't look like, they were running past the same post that we did in the last chase scene. They actually put some time and imagination into these things. As someone who's watching a bad DVD copy that's been modified to fit my screen, I really appreciated that.
That 4:3 aspect ratio, really.
I think that can be said about a lot of Albert Pune's movies. Is that he's he's not like, like a massive visionary, but I think he's a really good director who just gets, here's $5, make a movie. Because I mean, he did a couple of my in the genres. I mean, I love Cyborg, and he did one of my all-time favorite fantasy films with Sword and the Sorcerer.
Oh God, that's right. That was him, wasn't it? It
was like one of his first films ever.
That's a wonderful movie. I love Sword and the Sorcerer.
Yeah, it just had the bad luck of coming out the same year as Conan.
Yeah, exactly. But Conan didn't have a tri-bladed sword, so there you go.
No, but I did the next week in D&D.
So did everyone else.
Along with everyone else.
I was going to say, anyone else played D&D. I found, okay, can I craft a 3-bladed sword?
I'm going to get a 4-bladed sword.
Yeah. But you mentioned you're right. The first 15 minutes of this, when she's above ground and we're being introduced to her, when you have someone who is your main character saying, Mom left, she got hit by a car. Well, she didn't really have a choice. Her aunt's trying to tell her that. I was just like, oh man, this is where it's going to go. And then she falls down the rabbit hole, basically, and things just get wild. I mean, the vehicles they've got, you could tell they really are making the most of their budget, because they do make these unusual vehicles. They actually put thought into how this world works. And if you watch this, folks, Super Mario fucking Brothers, the live action piece of shit, borrowed so much from this movie, it isn't even funny.
I agree with you, but I can't look at some of the vehicles they have without just thinking, so they just took one of the little tight
power wheels.
Yeah, power wheels. It's just a power wheel. That's all it is. Except the power wheels goes a lot faster than these things.
Yes, they do. These are slow vehicles. But the technology, like when he pumped up the gas, there was it wasn't like a regular teller. There was like an android there paying him. But the head and android heads and such were prominent throughout it. I mean, low budget films like this don't normally put thought into the world they build to where there's consistency. But I felt, and I could be wrong, but I felt they actually stayed consistent as far as how this world worked. It may not have made much sense to us watching it, but they were consistent with it at least. It's not like they brought in one thing or had one design and then you just forget about it. It's throughout, the way people dress, the way people talk, the way things are presented. This world is an actual world, which I think helps sell it and really gets me into the movie, because I'm like, this is kind of cool. It's, not really elaborate, but then again, doesn't have to be. But like you said, Ian, they're in multiple locations. They aren't just running around the same foundry, or if they are, it's vast enough to where they're finding spots that look different, because we get our hero finally, like a half hour in, even though he's second in the credits, our hero,
he's not our hero. He's the last minute love interest. You're talking about Tom Matthews.
No,
Now,
no, I'm not talking about Charbon. I'm talking about the prospector.
Oh, Gus. Okay, because Tom
Gus.
Matthews gets second billing in this fucking movie.
Oh,
he
yeah,
shows
that's right.
up. He shows up. This movie is an hour and 27 minutes. He shows up at the hour mark.
Yes.
He stays for 5.5 minutes and then shows up at the very end. So he's got 6 minutes second billing. William R. Moses, Melrose Places. William R. Moses. Further down the cast list, he's the MVP of this movie. Besides Kathy Ireland.
And he was on Falcon Crest when this movie was made, or had just gotten off of it. Like, he's been off Falcon Crest for like a year.
Wow. I'd never watched Falcon Crest. That was one of those shows, though.
I never did.
Shows,
I
right?
didn't really watch it. My mother loved it, so I just kind of would catch it all the time because she'd be watching it, and I'd be doing my homework at the kitchen table.
Yeah, that was the time when during the period in the late 80s where the primetime dramas were huge. They weren't just soap operas during the day anymore. You were getting them in the evenings too.
Like Dallas and Falcon Crest and all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They've got these two male leads in here who do well, and this is Kathy Ireland's first film, and I'm going to say, yes, the voice is annoying, but for her first film, actually, I kind of liked her acting in this, especially when you get her in Atlantis. I mean, it's like night and day with this film. It really is, between how things are and how invited, how interesting the film gets from when you first see her, that first 15 minutes, and then the last hour. It's like two different movies, really.
Very much so. One thing I want to pull over and talk about is when she goes to Africa. She visits her dad's apartment, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
This is clearly just a Los Angeles apartment where they put a spear and like a leopard print fur over a chair and said, "We're in Africa." Talking about that $5 to make a movie thing. I loved it.
They did have the budget to go to Africa. Jeez,
I know, but I'm like, you're not fooling anybody.
Well, let's not forget the fact that her dad's apartment is above this portal to Atlantis. Like, the excavation he does for the underground temple is literally under the apartment he rented.
And that's the only explanation I can give, because the first time we see the dad, he's in these underground ruins, like digging through like cave type things, but he's wearing the cartoon scientist outfit where it's like a white lab coat and a red bow tie. I'm like, you're not down there excavating anything in that getup. What are you?
Ye dad. But yeah, her mission to go find dad. We've got William R. Moses as Gus. What'd you think of Gus there, Glenn? And our anti kind of hero. He wasn't a love interest, at least, but what'd you think of Gus?
Gotta love that accent.
Do you notice the irony of the fact that he is down under and he has an Australian accent?
I yes, and I also know that he has the accent roughly 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
Well, especially towards, because I may have missed his backstory or whatever, but did he realize he was from Australia? Is that part of the story? Like the character? Because
No.
at some point towards the end, I think it's right about the time they're taking the giant balloon-looking rocket back up to the surface to get out of, quote unquote Oz. He actually says, "I've got to get back to Oz." I'm like, what? You got to get back to Oz? What are you talking about? And the only thing I could think of was making some reference to Australia. AKA
No, it's his accent, because his accent came back at the worst time. He wasn't getting back to Oz. He was getting back to Aris, who was his girlfriend, who ran the bar tent.
Okay, that's like a Laurel Yanni thing. I totally heard it different.
Well, see, I had the subtitles on.
You cheater.
That's right. We all make mistakes. I mistakenly called him a congressman when he's the son of a congressman.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, at least we correct ourselves. No, I have the ringing in my ear, the tinnitus in my ear, so I have the subtitles on usually just so that I can catch everything. And yeah, he was going back to his bartending girlfriend, who he left on their wedding day to go get a prospect, apparently. And she's just one of the many wild characters that you run across, which for late 80s, this is kind of waning. This felt like almost like a Forbidden Zone type of design for everybody, all these characters. But we meet a lot of interesting characters along the way, don't we?
Well, there's this one character. She's the kind of the informant who's skulking around the scenes trying to find. Because there's like the APB out in Atlantis to find the alien, Kathy Ireland's character, and this informant, whatever. I swear to God, Helena Bonham Carter took her entire look and career from this actress, because this part, I'm like, I thought that was her.
And you're gonna love it. Her name was Shank. And I loved this character because at first you think she's just some kind of creepy side character who doesn't really have much to her, but she's able to track our girl Wanda every step of the way. Wanda's hiding and she's with the general, and she stops where everybody goes along and suspects that she's hiding down an alley, and sure enough, she's there. I mean, she's like on it. I liked this character quite a bit.
Great. And the scene in the bar when she actually injects her with the needle and she falls over and everything. Just what I loved about this film is I started off thinking I knew exactly where it was going to go. But then after, like you point out, Mark, once she gets to Atlantis, once we are submerged in the city, you never know what's going to happen. Anything can be around any corner. And aside from the direct Wizard of Oz kind of illusions, which they even kind of, they do fudge things a little bit though, because you don't have a very clear, like, oh, here's the Tin Man and the lion and all this other stuff. But there's a lot of, I'll call it originality here that I was not expecting. And that's what kept me engaged the entire way through. There was not a second where I checked out after that first 15 minutes.
Even with your Misty experience, Glenn, what about you? Do you think this movie kind of keeps you engaged, especially when you get to Atlantis?
I think it does. And I like I said, I think it was more ambitious than their budget.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I have an extra fondness for this film because shortly after college, I played in a long kind of post-apocalyptic cyberpunk game, and the guy who ran it years later found his notes and he was showing them to us. And Alien from L.A. was one of his inspirations for the campaign he ran. He basically based the game off of Alien from L.A., that Forbidden Zone movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Forbidden Zone with Molly Ringwald. Adventures in the Forbidden Zone.
Oh yeah, Adventures Space Hunter.
And like
Adventures in the
other like these kind of like pseudo. Oh, and Cherry 3000. Those were like his main inspirations for the game he ran.
Wow.
And then I'm looking back and I'm like, oh man, yeah. Because basically, I forget the name of the character in the movie, but the one that Deep Roy plays.
Oh yeah, the boss, Mondo.
Yeah,
the boss
he was one of the crime bosses in the game we played. It was basically Deep Roy. So, and I haven't watched it since I found that out. Aside from the MST3K version, I kind of want to go back and get those three movies and watch them all back to back with my friends and see all the things we can pick up that he cherry picked for the game. So, I mean, this is the thing with there's a lot of quote unquote what are called bad movies that have really great ideas in them. So, and it's part of the reason why I've stopped using the term, this is one of my guilty pleasures, because I don't feel guilty about liking this stuff, because if I enjoy it, I enjoy it. So I'm not going to feel guilty about it. If someone wants to judge me on the fact that, I will watch the non-MST3K version of Alien from L.A., whatever. You don't know what fun is, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about guilty pleasure, because I've always hated that term too. It's as if you're ascribing the guilt that you think other people think you should feel for liking something. You're like, how could you like that? Well, it's a guilty pleasure. No, stand up for what you love. But yeah, talking about Deep Roy, there was a fantastic makeup choice with these creepy red long eyelashes that just made me so uncomfortable, especially when he would like get angry and there'd be kind of a close up on his face and be sort of like, scowling or hissing. I was like, it's nightmare fuel. And I can't believe that I haven't seen anything like that in a movie in the 30 years since that was a thing. Because if there's anything to rip off as far as like creating a scary monster like those 1001 Ghost Kid movies from 20 years ago, that would be really effective.
Well, and in the game we played, he had the same eyelashes, but they were reflective of his mood. So when they were red, that meant he was pissed off.
Oh, nice.
So he had mood eyelashes. So, and I can't believe I never put that together, because I had probably seen the movie 2 or 3 times while we were playing that game on the MST3K version. I never put the fact that that was our crime boss.
That's awesome.
And what's great about the crime boss scene is, again, here you think at the beginning, especially what starts out, this is going to be kind of a vacuous film, but we've got this Skank character who, by the way, also plays the general character, same actress.
What?
Yeah.
I missed that. Wow.
Yeah, she played. Actually, you got a number of people in here. Auntie Pearl, the one who needs help at the diner, is also Royas, the girlfriend of our guy.
There's several people like the evangelist guy played like 4 or 5 other roles in the movie.
Yeah,
man, I gotta go watch this again.
So you've got multiple people because limited budget for sure. But amongst these things, which is supposed to be kind of a ridiculous movie, you've got a character named Skank. Now follow me here, folks, because this is part of the reason why I love this character, and I didn't even expect to see her, was she starts off as you think just being this weird creeper informant. Not only can she track our heroine wherever she goes, she drugs her, she kidnaps her out of this popular club, takes her to Bambino, who runs a fight club, by the way, which in this really creepy scene where she puts her on the Kathy Ireland's character on the table, and he's got this magnifying glass to look at her, but he also has it to look at people. It's a weird gimmick, but very cool. But then while Skank has turned her in to get some shiny, because they don't say just money, they say shiny or rusty or whatever, she then calls the government and says, hey, I know where the alien from the surface is. They give her money, so she rats them out and sends them Bambinos. I'm like sitting here going, here's the side character, Skank, who you think is not. And she's playing this thing from like all angles. And I'm like, I shouldn't be into this story, but I am.
Well, first of all, one sec. I got to correct you on something, Mark. It's Shank.
Yep,
not
Skank. Sorry, not Skank. My apologies, Skank. My apologies.
I love listening you go on a rant about skanks, but
no, Shank. My apologies. Yes, Shank. I read it wrong. I have blurry eyes. Whatever. No,
no, but I agree. There's so much happening in this, and maybe it's because it was a low budget that they had to fill the runtime with like dialogue and ideas instead of like grand special effects and things, but it totally worked for me. And I can totally see how this would be great for MST3K. In fact, I'm going to go look this up now because I would love to watch it with that commentary on it. But you can also turn off that part of your brain that says this is just supposed to be stupid and engage it as if it's a real movie, because it is, and find yourself surprised that this is some, not high class or highbrow stuff, but it's beyond the level that you might think it is. Especially based on, this is the most offensive thing about the movie is, you got all the alien creatures and subdwellers in the background, and then Kathy Ireland in a swimsuit in the, we know who we're trying to market to, I guess.
What? No.
Look, you can have her be in a, looking pretty, I guess, because you're selling Kathy Ireland, but she spends most of the movie not looking like that. And I'm not a fan of that kind of bait and switch. Have her in that, that kind of a sexy midriff, sand dweller outfit that she was in when she was undercover. She has like a few different wardrobe changes in this movie, and I think that was the coolest one. There was some really neat costume designs in addition to the set designs here too.
I personally liked the design of the general's wardrobe and the general character in general. I liked her character. Actually, again, you're right. The costuming too reflected the character because they're not on a big budget, so you kind of need the visual to establish who she is. But she actually she had a badass look to her. You had the counselor or whatever, who was the peace guy. He had his own look. They had a clash. I mean, they work a lot into a little bit of time with very little money. It's actually impressive.
Well, yeah, the general has an eye patch, and instead of just like, we're going to give her a black eye patch, it's a peacock feather. Like a giant peacock feather that's like got this cool swoop to it. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, That's why I did not expect to really get into the film like I did. But yeah, and then you have Gus, who doesn't actually ever become the stereotypical. They don't even hint at him becoming any type of romantic relationship with our lead. I mean, you might think that's where they're going with it. No, it's not until, as you guys mentioned, the second title card actor shows up, Charming, to help her out. And he's a decent guy, and he gets a few minutes to fight, but he's the love interest. But you don't, it's like out of left field. You're like, she meets this guy, and suddenly there's kind of this spark. You're like, how many minutes do we have left in this movie?
I got to correct you again, Mark. It's not Charming, it's Charmin.
Charmin.
With an apostrophe, because he's charming.
He's charming, yes.
Like, also like the toilet paper. I love Tom Matthews. But, this, whatever he was doing in this movie, that was the one thing, if I had a criticism, I wish he would have ended up with Gus. Because at least it kind of makes sense. He's an awesome character. This dude, he's literally just the bohunk on the motorcycle who shows up, and he's got this dreamy kind of, he reminds me of like Luke Perry on 90210, just kind of like, oh, it's like another time, another place, man, whatever. Like, what is he doing in this movie for 5 minutes? He looked great on that motorcycle at the end. Don't get me wrong, but it felt really out of place.
It is kind of out of left field. Like, they almost decided, hey, maybe we should give her a love interest, or we got to pad like another 10 minutes out of this movie. Who can we get?
Tommy Jarvis.
Well, apparently Kathy Ireland was cast near the end of casting because they couldn't find another lead for this film, apparently, according to trivia. Yeah, which surprises the hell out of me. I'm like, especially in '88, she was, a name. You saw her name everywhere. So it was like, how do you not, if you have the opportunity to cast her, if anything, for the name recognition alone, to have her in here? And, she's a fun character. But yeah, okay, Charmin, excuse me. See, this is why I have you on the show. You correct me on names all the time, and I appreciate that because my brain doesn't work that way.
Well, that second correction was more of a joke because it's just like the rest of the character. It's just so dumb. Because I wrote down in my notes Charming, but then he said his name again as Charmin, and I paused the movie to IMDb, and I'm like, son of a, it's just so dumb. But on the one hand, I understand this sort of what we were talking about earlier, the story going places you don't expect. You do expect Wanda to end up with Gus, and I like that they don't let that happen. But I feel like they needed one other puzzle piece worked in there to make Charmin work. Like, introduce him earlier in the movie, the rule of 3 or something.
How does the movie start?
The boyfriend, yeah.
No, once upon a time.
Oh.
And then she ends up with Charmin.
Yeah.
Prince Charmin, yes.
More like cringe Charmin.
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's before he rides up on his motorcycle, or I guess his steed, Prince Charmin on the horsepower. We're completing this terrible metaphor.
The cringe works because that's most Disney princes, because they just walk around kissing sleeping women. Like, what the hell, dude?
I'm trying to. It sounds like you're offering a criticism. I've yet to hear it. No, okay. Just kidding. But it's funny because what was it? The dumb boyfriend that dumps her at the beginning, like Steve or Biff or Jock or
Bob.
whatever.
Yeah,
Bob. Okay.
Bob. I think
It's funny because at the end of the movie, Wanda's best friend, I don't remember her name, but she's on the beach, and Bob and his new girlfriend, a blonde, walk up, and he's like talking about his ex-girlfriend in front of his new girlfriend, Class, like, hey, whatever happened to Wanda? And she's like, yeah, she went on an adventure and she's totally different, and she's right over there. Go see her. So he's like, what? And then he walks off. Bob's new girlfriend looks at Wanda's best friend. I love that look. It's like, hey, now that doofus is gone, you want to give me your number?
Actually, that's the impression I got when he walked away. Those two looked at each other like, it's 88, so you're and the type of film that you're not going to quite get it, but it's hinted at. It's almost hinted at that those two actually have kind of a connection.
Yeah,
and
I love that because I'm like, yeah, Bob, forget Bob.
Forget Bob. And Bob, meanwhile, is suddenly drooling over Wanda because she's in the red swimsuit, which you see on the cover, and not wearing her glasses anymore for whatever reason. Her vision got better since she came plowing through the floor of her dad's apartment in the balloon machine. I don't know.
I love that cutaway, by the way, when she wakes up and they do the whole Dorothy waking up kind of thing. It was all just a dream, but they cut to the part in the floor where the
balloon machine came up.
That didn't look cheap. It was a nicely put together little set just for a cutaway.
Yeah, they were implying, oh look, it is just like Wizard of Oz, but no, it actually did happen because there's the device. What I liked about her character is even though they play her as a bit mousy and not adventurous, if you look at some of the things she does while she's in Atlantis, they're actually rather brave, including when Charmin and the big guy, the big brute force guy of the general, are fighting. She doesn't just sit in a corner and cower and like, oh, like you might expect her character that we were introduced to. She's hopping on top of the guy and she's trying to pound him. I mean, granted, it's in effort in vain, but still her character doesn't actually back down from a lot of things or just go, oh, I'm scared, or, oh, I'm in a corner, which you would think you would have with the way they set her character up in the beginning. So I found that a bit of a surprise.
Well, I think that's, it's an honest, great arc, because you get the feeling that the reason she's so afraid and so mousy and everything and frankly obnoxious is because she's never done anything. She's never pushed herself or been forced to encounter the world on, that kind of a scale. So she doesn't know what she's capable of. And yet, throughout the course of this movie, she's constantly tested until towards the end, she's, doing her best to kick ass and not cowering in the corner, waiting for Gus to swoop in. And, that's the other reason that the Tom Matthews thing doesn't quite work. We don't need that kind of a character at the end of this movie. The three newly found girlfriends could go skipping off into the sunset for all I care. And I would watch that movie too. Yeah, she's a legit great character. And I wonder how much of the non-presence of this movie in the wider culture is due to that damn voice. If it had just been Kathy Ireland acting, kind of putting on the mousier, less confident persona. And maybe that's because of who she is. She couldn't get there unless she did a funny voice. Like, I don't know how to be unconfident. I'm Kathy Ireland. But yeah.
What do you think, Glenn, of our character here, Wanda? Do you think she gets a decent art for especially an late 80s film?
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's so expected, I guess. Just that, of course, she's gonna, shy, nerdy, quote unquote ugly girl who apparently can't hold a boyfriend, even though she looks like Kathy Ireland with glasses. Suddenly becomes confident and loses the glasses, which she apparently didn't need to see anyways.
Yeah,
she loses them partway through the movie and has no problem seeing for the most part.
Well, because things are different in Atlantis.
Yeah,
I guess
it's like Superman being on Krypton versus Earth's gravity or something. I don't know.
It's the pressure on the lenses of your eyes. The pressure from being down.
So Wanda's kind of like she's like the closer she is to the core of the Earth, the more powerful she becomes.
Right. Yeah. See, if she would have been like 2 levels lower, she could have kicked the ass of that big soldier. But she wasn't that far down yet. But she could see. So there you go. Yeah,
it's a bigger shame now that she wasn't in the sequel.
So what do you think, Glenn? Would you have preferred her with Gus versus Charmin, or just leave it with no one?
I think leave it with no one.
Yeah.
I think having her go back and just her old boyfriend just drool would have been perfect. But like, what? And then she just like snubs him, and then she goes hangs out with that sassy older waitress.
Right. who is also Royce. Yes, Auntie. I forgot her name, but
Yeah.
Anti-M? No.
Auntie. No. Which again, it's implied. You can see the undertone of the Wizard of Oz, but yeah, you're right. I think if it would have ended without Charmin and Ian, you're right. He's thrown in here, and he's not really needed with her character. The way you go, it almost ends better where you just cut where he doesn't show up on his steely steed. Would you have rather seen her do that versus her ending up with Charmin and like, oh hey, it's Charmin. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, again, I like there's a version of this movie where that whole relationship would have worked, but they needed to put in a couple of extra scenes or a little bit extra work on the writing to pull it off, because they didn't. It looks great. He looks awesome. Tom Matthews looks great on that motorcycle. But I don't, and that line they keep repeating another time, another place, which just reminded me of Streets of Fire, because I think that's the opening title card to that movie, which Albert Pune then went on to do a sequel of years later. There's a 75 degrees of Albert Pune that you need to do for 2022.
Oh man, degrees of Albert Pune. Maybe we'll see. He's done enough. But you could cut out the Charmin character, and her character would have been fine without it. I would have liked to almost see it that angle, because that would have really been the full circle and the complete arc for her character. Is just she walks off the beach with drooling boyfriend saying peace out, just leave him in the sand and walk off into the sunset. And there is that shot because it's in the trailer, but they don't have it anywhere in the film. There's a scene where she's walking like on the beach with the sun, just walking towards it, and like, where's that scene? And
it's from the Sports Illustrated VHS they put out that year.
Oh, that's right. Which apparently a shot of the exotic building is from a completely different movie. I think they lifted it from, if I was reading up the trivia on it, which again, like I said, there wasn't a lot of trivia on this film, but I guess one of the shots was just completely lifted from that, and then he had music in here that was definitely trying to not be, but it was some John Williams replica ripoff. Yeah, that is it. The view of an exotic building silhouetted by the sun, orange sky during the credits is lifted right out of the Iraq scene in The Exorcist.
Oh, wow.
Canon. They'll just make a film, for whatever. They crank that film out, man. Crank that.
So that way they can put like from the cinematographer of The Exorcist comes alien from L.A. But no, for 1 second, Mark. 4 composers. This movie had 4 composers.
Yes.
I have not seen that on a movie before. I've seen screenwriters and stuff, but not composers. Jesus.
Maybe we need to put composers in quotes, though. I don't know. Well, no, no, it's they're for composers. Actually, it's kind of funny. Doing some reading, it's weird that sometimes they get credit and sometimes they don't. Like, I guess I read up, and I haven't been able to fully confirm it in some behind the scenes footage or whatnot, but like Pirates of the Caribbean, The Black Pearl, that score actually was composed by a number of different individuals, not just was it Zimmer? I think it was. I forgot who it was.
I've heard and I've known people I know a person who's friends with someone who was a Zimmer composer. So yeah, it's kind of like that Thomas Kincaid school of art putting composition, where it's like, yeah, you do the broad strokes and you farm it out to people to fill it in.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's not uncommon. It's just, yeah, you're right. Music by like 4 different folks in here, and one of the music cues in here sounds a lot like Yoda's theme from Star Wars. Just don't pay too much attention to how accurate it might be. So yeah, Alien from L.A. I think we could wrap it up here for the night. I mean, it's not a deep film, but it's far more entertaining, even when you don't have the misty commentary. There's actually a lot to like in here. I mean, some changes that you kind of want to make, but it's one of those films you've got to get through I will say, and you probably got that notion from all of us here tonight, folks. Get through the first 15 minutes. Get to the point where she gets to Atlantis. When you get into Atlantis, the film takes off and it gets so much better. Her character gets better because they cut back. If you notice too, her voice, because it is a gimmick, folks. They didn't just do this for her character. It is an actual setup in the script that she's supposed to have this voice because people keep making fun of her voice throughout the film. So this high-pitched voice. But if you get past it, it gets less annoying when she gets into Atlantis, actually, because I don't know if it's because of the way they did the sound mix or what, but her voice isn't nearly as standoutish as the first 15 minutes to where you're just like, oh, this is going to be this type of movie.
Although I do like it when she used it as a weapon, because I think there was one henchman who attacked her, and she's like, and he just covers his ears and falls over.
Yeah, because he grabs her by the throat, and she screams, and it hurts his ears because his ears are sensitive, to it. Which I thought they were going to play at it at one point of because everybody kept going for her throat. Did you notice that when they attacked, they always went for her throat? Probably because that was the safest place that they could, grab Kathy Ireland and was her throat. But also, I thought they were going to play that it was going to change her voice at some point.
Oh,
I almost
would have been interesting.
My brain goes to weird places, but I thought maybe that's where they were going to go because everybody seems to grab at her throat. And she was getting attacked a lot of times that involved her throat. And it was like, are they going to play it? It changes her voice eventually. So not only does she get her transformation of out of her baggy clothes and into a bikini, but her voice changes as well and everything. She basically becomes the confident woman that can reject drooling surfer boy. But you also kind of want to see her reject Charmin.
No, I'm just imagining her by the end of the movie being Wanda Earl Jones.
That would be awesome. You're Charmin. Oh, okay. No, they did miss it opportunity because she could have goosed him, grabbed his butt, and he goes, "Hey, don't squeeze the Charmin." And there we have it.
No, overruled.
And on that note, I think we'll end it for the evening. Now, before we get our license to shill, it is a Cannon Fodder episode. And since we have Mr. Glenn Bittner here, you, sir, get to pick and fire the cannon to see what we cover next month. So pick a number between 1 and 10.
All right. I'm a nerd, so I can't pick a number. I have to roll a 10-sided die.
He's going to roll the dice. Sweet.
That would be a 10.
That would be a 10. Oh, let's load the 10 into the cannon and see what we get. Yes, and with that, it's actually a double hit for next month, Mr. Bittner. So you not only just show up in the room, but we will be doing 2 Cannon Fodder episodes next month. Missing in Action 1, and along with it, Missing in Action 2. You have hit Missing in Action 1 and 2. So it was a double hit, so we will cover those films. We'll do a 1 episode on each. I think we could do that. 1 episode on each of those films, but that's what we're doing next month, folks. Glenn has...
So we're not doing the sequel to this one?
Sequel to Alien from L.A.? What?
Yeah.
What sequel would that be? I'm walking into...
Journey to the Center of the Earth is a sequel to Alien from L.A.
Wait, what?
You did not know that? In your trivia research, that didn't come up? So Albert Pune, Cannon had a Journey to the Center of the Earth movie that they had tried to do, that was a mess. And they brought in Albert Pune to finish it. And he brought in Kathy Ireland and made it a sequel to Alien from L.A.
That explains the
where
last.
the Atlanteans are going to invade the surface world, and Wanda and the teenagers have to stop it.
No shit. That explains the last name, because the last name is the last name is of a same last name as a character in Journey to the Center of the Earth, the book, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
My God, so that came out in the same year as this. Journey to the Center of the Earth is also 1988. I'm looking it up right now. That's crazy. Yeah. And there she is, Wanda Sanknews. Oh, man. Okay. At some point, yeah, I got to watch this one, too. I'm surprised. Of a 4-pack, they couldn't put that on here, too. Mark, did you freeze?
Could have put that in there.
Oh, yeah.
Am I? Nah.
Oh.
No, I did. She's not on the cover of that, so.
Nah, that's true.
Well, yeah, like I said,
so that could be why they didn't.
And it was a mess, and they brought him in to finish it, and he just turned it into a sort of sequel.
Oh, that's great.
So they must have used her. They must have shot additional scenes since he had her there. If they were already trying to make it before this film, that would make sense because, because you got Shank and Rykov back,
and that makes Atlantis pretty big because in the second movie, the way in that one is in Hawaii.
Oh, so Atlantis.
If I remember, I'm pretty sure it's in Hawaii. So.
Wow. So Atlantis is like full underneath the crust of the earth. That's
apparently.
Well, crap. Now I'm going to have to watch that. Maybe we will have to do that episode next. But wow. So there you go, folks. This actually has a sequel to it, though it's never paired on any DVD I've ever seen. So it's always with morons from outer space. So, but there you have it, folks. Next month, you heard Missing in Action 1 and 2. I'll look at what the theme for next month will be. So yeah, now is the time where I give my crew the license to shill. So Ian, your first license to shill, sir.
Okay, well, I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which is at kickseat.com. It's a weekly movie podcast. I also have a YouTube channel, Kicking the Seat, where I do interviews and roundtables. And this Friday night is going to be the season 1 finale episode roundtable, the WandaVision recap. And Mark, you're going to be on, as long as the fates are still aligned, you're going to be on there with us on camera, giving her thoughts on our giant-sized final episode for the season. So that's very exciting. One question, will this episode be up before Saturday?
Yes.
Okay, then there's one thing else I would like to plug, and it's not something that is for me, but it's something that a friend of mine is doing. It's the 10th year of F This Movie Fest. It's an annual Twitter-based film festival that my friend Patrick Bromley puts on from his site, F This Movie. And essentially, he's got a list of movies that last all day Saturday, starting, I think, at like 10 a.m., and you watch them, and then you tweet along, first impressions if you've never seen it, jokes, just kind of like everyone can't be in the same room together, so they're just tweeting. It's a lot of fun. If you want more information, you can go to fthismovie.net and learn all about it. Coincidentally, his topic or his theme this year is the movies of 1988. Unfortunately, Alien from L.A. is not on there, but you've got movies like Die Hard, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Willow, and a bunch of other things. So it's a really fun virtual party, and you should check it out.
I'm starting to think that I opened some kind of connection nexus from doing 52 Degrees last year, because we keep having everything connected somehow.
It's your fault, Mark. It's all you.
My fault. I opened up the bacon nexus. That's what it is. The bacon nexus has drawn everybody out and connected everybody and everything. So there you go. Mr. Glenn Bittner, BFD, so glad to have you back in the spoiler room. It is your license to shill, sir. So please, whatever you want, plug away.
I ain't got shit to plug, do I? I don't know. I mean, I do. If you're a D&D player, I do D&D tips on the TikTok. at Games in a Bunker. So I do that. You can find me on Twitter, Games in a Bunker. I haven't really done much with my movie reviews for quite a while now. B-Movie Bunker has kind of been laid to rest for the time being. I don't know if it'll ever come back, but it might. But you can find my short films on YouTube as well, in a Bunker Productions. So
there you go, folks. Check out them TikToks. He's got a great character on there as well that you need to see. Who I if I ever actually get around to shooting a fantasy film, I want this character in the film. So thank you so much, both of you gentlemen. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed this conversation, folks. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will plug it now. There'll be lots of ads, and you'll probably hear me talk about it ad nauseum. But it is 15 years on YouTube. I am still here, old man of the stream, whatever you want to call me. But on July 9th, which will be the official anniversary of our YouTube channel going live, tentatively planning an AMA, a long AMA, where I will do commentary on some of the videos I posted early on, taking your questions, and I may even premiere something new there, bringing back an old friend. Let's just put it that way. So a lot of different things I'm planning. It's still kind of in the works, but there is going to be something happening on July 9th that'll be an AMA, and so you'll want to tune in there at Special Mark Productions on the YouTube. So thank you, everyone, and I will just say good night, everyone.
Good night.